Hello, hello everyone. Today, it is an exciting time because the OpenAI just released the O1 model, which is the most advanced model for reasoning. And as OpenAI stated, the O1 model is best suited for doing cutting-edge research, engineering, mathematics, data science, and medical studies. Um, and at the same time, the OpenAI also established a new so-called ChatGPT Pro subscription, which is 10 times as expensive as the ChatGPT Plus at a whopping price tag of $200 per month for unlimited use of O1 models and also the O1 Pro model, which as OpenAI claim to think longer and harder and provide even more advanced um, performances compared to the O1 model. Um, and for ChatGPT Plus users with a price tag of $20 per month, the users can use 50 prompts per week on the O1 model, but the users won't have access to the O1 Pro model, which at this time is exclusively provided only to the ChatGPT Pro users. And while the $200 is a very high price tag for most of the ChatGPT users, so it is important to know how well the O1 model perform in comparison to the O1 preview and O1 mini models. Um, and as a longtime user of ChatGPT Plus, I would like to show two of my evaluations using the O1 model to see how well it performed for difficult programming and reasoning questions. So the first example I would like to show is a relatively complex programming question that is also practically quite useful. I voiced over some prompts, which, well, not the very best prompt I could write. Uh, because I just spoke to the machine with some mistakes, but I think the main idea is clear that I would like the O1 model to write a complete program that allow automatic book generation. Um, and I also specified how the OpenAI the O1 model should write the program in a few sentences. For example, it should allow the user to first provide a title and a brief description to the book he or she would like to generate. And then the user should be provided with the opportunity to revise the title and description. When the user hit enter, the program will automatically generate an outline chapter by chapter with the chapter names as well as a brief description of the chapter to the user so that user can further revise. After user is satisfied with the outline, including all the chapter names and their summary content, then the program will dive into each chapter and automatically based on the chapter name and content, um, the program will generate a chapter specific outline for the user to revise. again, when the user is satisfied with the revision, the program is going to first generate the content pertaining to the first item of that chapter. And if the user is satisfied, then the program is going to move on to the next, draft the content for the next item in that outline of the chapter with sustained memory from what the program write in the first place. So through that iterative approach, the program should be able to complete the first chapter and then move on to the second chapter using the same iterative approach. Okay, so that is definitely not a very easy task for O1 model. And specifically, I also asked the O1 model to create the program using Python language and using the LangChain framework because LangChain provide the uniform framework for us to easily replace one large language model with the other so that we are not bounded by the OpenAI API specific syntax. And now this is the first prompt I wrote. And then the O1 model start to work. And this is the program that OpenAI O1 model drafted. As you can just take a very brief look of the Python code provided, it does call for the LangChain functionality. However, we first noticed that the O1 model does not have the most recent knowledge on the LangChain. So most of those modules used called by the O1 model actually are relatively obsolete. And there are also inconsistencies here. For example, in the response, it doesn't really call the LangChain pipeline, but directly use the chat completion, which is OpenAI API specific syntax rather than the standardized LangChain syntax. So the So anyway, the program tend to provide a pretty comprehensive draft and provide the codes, although the codes may not be exactly correct. So when I implement the code in a Python environment, the code doesn't work, and I have to debug the code myself, and then I realized there are about 4 errors, 4 mistakes the model make that prevent the program from working. And one major obstacle is that it doesn't really consistently use the LangChain, the most recent LangChain syntax. Okay, so that was the first iteration. And the code also is pretty lengthy, about 300 lines long. And then in the second attempt, I explicitly said to the model that it need to look into those 4 errors that that I found out, and specifically I listed that the O1 model should search the internet. Notice that the model doesn't have a function to search internet, but I realized it can if you explicitly ask to search internet to identify the most recent up-to-date LangChain language. And also pay attention to the difference between a chat model and a language model in the LangChain framework, and also to, instead of using the LLM chain, you should use the pipe, which is the recent change in LangChain, and also instead of using the LangChain run, you should use LangChain language invoke. So I explicitly identified those errors, and I asked the model to try again. And this time, the model tend to provide a much more succinct um, code, reducing the 300 or more lines into 150 lines. Um, and this time, I tried the code and the code works. Although it's not perfect, the code still needs some development, but it is still amazing to see this is actually the second attempt, and it works for this relatively complex programming question. Although I think you have to know a bit about the LangChain framework yourself. Otherwise, if you don't know where the error comes from, it is unlikely for the second try to be succeeded. Okay, so that is the what we learned. About its programming skill, I would say in comparison to the O1 preview model and also the GPT 4 model, we have seen significant improvement in programming consistency and accuracy in the O1 model because it is very unlikely for such a relatively complex task to be handled correctly within only two attempts, two attempted prompts, if you're using the more traditional models. So we do see a boost in programming capacity, although it is still far from ideal. No, because one, the O1 model may not have the most recent knowledge on some of the updated modules. And second, it may not have the capacity to pre-test the code before giving the code back to you. Although you can ask with various success rate of pre-testing the code running internally within the OpenAI cloud. And now let's take the second example, which is probably more challenging logically and mathematically. So in this example, actually, this example was inspired by my children because they love to drink naked fruit juice. And for those of you who know Naked, it is a branded juice that mainly contains primarily either vegetables or fruits. Um, and I've taken a photo of the Naked nutrition facts label and ingredient list package, which shows on the left-hand side the macro and micronutrients, for example, the calories, the sugar, potassium, sodiums, and other nutrient value. And on the right-hand side, it provides the different type of vegetable fruits. There are a total of 5 different fruits: apple, mango, pineapple, banana, and kiwi, as well as a number of vegetables that were included in this juice. Okay. So my question for O1 model is that given that we know there are 5 different type of juice, 5 different fruits included in the package, and given that we know the different type of vegetables also included in the juice, how we can utilize the nutrition information to figure out exactly how many apples, how many mango, how many pineapple, banana, and kiwi are included in the juice, and also figure out the number of cups of different vegetable in that juice. So this is definitely a very complex problem because the machine needs to first understand um, the nutrient content of different fruits and vegetables, maybe extracting nutrition data from the USDA database. And then the machine also need to set up a number of equations to solve the unknowns, which are the different number of fruits and vegetables in the juice, so that the set of equations uh, uh, with the target of optimizing and minimizing the error of those equations when estimating the total nutrient content of different types. Okay. Um, and also adding to the complexity is that the fruit and vegetables are not in the original format, but they were either purified or filtered or smashed into juices. So the juice or the pure format of those vegetable and foods may not have the same nutrition portfolio compared to the whole fruit and the whole vegetables. Okay. So therefore, it is a extremely challenging task to figure out. And when I first present this question to O1 model, it gives me the step-by-step methodology, and that is largely correct. Basically, for example, setting the number of apples, number of mangoes as unknowns, and also collect the nutrition data from each fruit from USDA in terms of total sugar, vitamin C, potassium, and total carbohydrates. And then also figure out the per apple the per apple nutrition content in terms of the gram of sugar, milligram of potassium, etc., and then setting up a number of equations to solve the system equations. But there are a number of problems with this. First, it doesn't really provide a concrete answer. It just gives the roadmap for the calculation. And second, it missed several points. For example, it doesn't really recognize there are other vegetables, not only fruit, but also vegetables that should be included in equation. And second, it only uses four or five different nutrients, but there are many other nutrients data that the machine tend to ignore. Um, and also, it doesn't really consider the fruits are not in the original whole format, but in the juice or filter format. So anyway, I continue the conversation, adding more details and suggestions, and the conversation goes with probably 6 to 7 rounds. Uh, and finally, when we reached almost the end of the conversation, by adding more details and suggestions, one almost at the end of the conversation, it comes with a probably most promising no results. For example, here in this table, it lists all the different nutrients that were identified from the label, and also it listed all the fruits and vegetables and their corresponding serve specific nutrient content. Okay. Um, so this is a system equation that we can solve approximately since we know the total nutrients and we also know the per serving nutrients for those fruits and vegetables. Um, so this is the constraint minimization or optimization problem. However, the O1 model does not suggest that it cannot really solve the equation because it doesn't have the solver. So basically, if we want to solve the equation, we have to download this data and use a separate solver, maybe in other software packages to solve this equation. Okay. Um, so therefore, the, uh, the model has provided, I think, finally provide the adequate processes for the solution, and also provide the data, which I don't really check the accuracy, for you to solve the equation, but unfortunately, one model does not call some internal tool, a optimizer or solver, to solve it by its own end. So in this case, what we learned is that the O1 model has definitely improved logical thinking and being able to deliver a relatively comprehensive solution to a quite complicated question, but it still fall short to provide a definite answer. Um, so it means that probably the O1 model is more well suited if the problem is self-contained, meaning that the question itself contains sufficient information to analytically solve the problem, although the solving process can be complex. However, for this kind of more open-ended question, because many of the things are unknown, um, uh, and it asks the model to extract data from different sources, put them together, and to solve a question with high uncertainty. In this case, probably the O1 model still doesn't have the capacity to automatically give you the solution. Um, so that concludes my two case study evaluations of the O1 model. And I would say the conclusion is, I think for most of us who use the ChatGPT Plus model for routine tasks, for example, drafting an email, maybe paraphrasing a paragraph, or drafting a summary. For those of the common tasks, I don't see the O1 model provide sufficient value for us to subscribe to the Pro platform, which is 10 times more expensive. But the O1 model and the O1 Pro model, which I have not tested, does provide additional gain in the programming accuracy, in the analytic complexity. So if you are a heavy user of ChatGPT to solve complex research questions, mathematical questions, or logical questions, or complex case studies, um, and you do want to get a cutting edge advantage, maybe a 5% to 10%, but definite advantage in comparison to what the traditional ChatGPT Plus can provide, then maybe it's worthwhile for you to invest $200 to gain that cutting edge capacity. That concludes my quick evaluation. Thank you for watching.